Okay, hello and welcome to Hello Governor, the podcast. As always, I am Abdullah, and my guest today is Rebecca Rose. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm so good. It's good to be here.
So, first question is the obvious one. How did you get started, and what made you want to get into acting?
Okay, we're diving right into it. Yeah, voice acting was not ever something that I thought could be a real thing. It was just, it kind of fell accidentally into my hands. I was invited or I heard about this audition that was happening. This was in Seoul, South Korea, where I got my start. And just by going to that first audition, it kind of grew from there little by little. Studios heard about me, producers heard about me, kind of word of mouth spread. And over many, many years, I was building up a portfolio. And then I was able to take that portfolio, come to New York, find my amazing agent here, which is what helped land me Mai Shiranui in Street Fighter 6 and Fatal Fury.
And which project did you record first, Street Fighter or Fatal Fury?
Good question. Even though Street Fighter was released first, I actually recorded Fatal Fury beforehand. So some people have said they could hear a little bit of a difference in how I voiced Mai in Fatal Fury versus Street Fighter, and that just has to do with different directions that I received at the time, but that was the order.
So it was Fatal Fury, and then when you recorded for Fatal Fury, it was just like you're already the voice of the character, so they just brought you in for Street Fighter 6. Is that right, or did you have to audition for Street Fighter 6, or what was the
Yeah,
process
well,
like? Is
how did
basically
that
what I'm
go?
yeah.
Yeah, actually, it was Fatal Fury, and then Street Fighter contacted me afterwards. So they already obviously knew what was happening internally. And yeah, so I didn't have to audition for Street Fighter. I think they just wanted some cohesiveness in the character's voice.
And how was that like recording for two different projects, same character, but totally different styles of acting? How was that experience like?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was totally different styles of acting. I think it was just like just a little tweaks in direction. So that's how it came out sounding a little bit different here and there. Um, but honestly, it was really cool. It was a wonderful experience, and I got to work with two excellent teams. And so it wasn't difficult bringing Mai Shiranui to life for both games.
And were you familiar with the character beforehand, or was this like your first experience into the world of Fatal Fury and Street Fighter?
Yeah, everybody always wants to know this question. I have to admit that when I booked the character, I was not fully aware of who she was. I was like, this name is so familiar to me. Where have I heard this? And then it was afterwards when I was starting to do my research, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have 100% seen her. So I was very aware of the character, but I hadn't put it two and two together until it was actually happening. And so part of it was like, reawakening something that I had stored in the back of my brain. And the other part of it was me doing my due diligence and learning about the character and the history and the lore and just all of those things so that I could fully absorb her.
And what aspects of her character do you relate to?
Yeah, well, I have heard that we have some similarities, maybe in look. And I also find that her character, obviously, she's very bright, she's cheerful, she can be intense, she's very strong, she's tough, she's also sweet and determined. So I like to think that I do carry some of those characteristics, definitely the cheerfulness aspect. I cannot yet conjure up flames, but maybe one day that will come to me.
And how did you feel about the efforts? Were they tough, or were they something you gradually got used to because you had to record twice for the same character for two different
True.
games, and they're both like they're both fighting games, same character, and they take a lot of efforts. And I'm kind of wondering like what was that experience like for you?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've done a lot of voice acting yourself, but in this case, for Mai, there's the Japanese voice actor as well. And so they wanted some of the sounds to have a good, let's say, parallel, right? So sometimes I would hear her efforts first, and then I would do my take on that. So for the most part, a lot of the similarities, it wasn't too difficult, I think, because when you're in the studio and you're hearing this and you're watching it, at least for Street Fighter, I was, you kind of feel the physicality in her lines and in the character. So actually, if you ever saw me recording in the booth, you would actually see me kind of doing some of these moves while I'm making the efforts, which I think helps bring out the sound in the voice.
And what are some of your favorite lines in any of the games, in Street Fighter or Fatal Fury?
Oh, you know what? This is such a funny one. I I do love her little taunts. I think her taunts are now iconic in Street Fighter 6. I also love the way she laughs. And so sometimes I will say throughout the day, I'll be like, hey, don't mess up, just as like teasing. Um, or I also am a big tea drinker. So sometimes for fun, when I'm just making my own tea, and I'll be like, I like my fighters like I like my tea. It's these little things. It just kind of comes out of me.
And seeing as this is your introduction to the character and to this franchise, like, were you surprised at how big and iconic this character is? Because she's not I mean she has had like a couple English, well, I mean, okay, do we count the OVA that was released in the 90s as canon? Because that is a
It's a
whole
whole
other
different thing.
that's a whole other conversation. So I'm kind of wondering, like, because she never had an English speaking um she never had an English voice before this. I think
Hmm.
you're the first like official English voice of the character, especially in previous like Fatal Fury and King of Fighters games. It was always the she was just voiced by two, Japanese actresses. So
Right.
it's kind of interesting that you're officially like the first official English voice of this character, and I'm kind of wondering, like, what was that experience like, bringing to life a version of a character that was iconic but never had an official English voice before this.
Absolutely. It is probably a good thing when I was initially recording, when I first got started. It was probably a good thing that I didn't have full understanding or awareness of how significant this was. Maybe I would have psyched myself out if I'd felt the burden of such responsibility of bringing this iconic character to life to so many fans who have loved her for so long. So part of me is grateful that I wasn't fully aware of it. And that way I could bring my own take and I didn't overthink it. And I think that's how it came out a little bit more natural. But of course, as time has gone on, I have definitely seen just more and more love for the character. And I was absolutely terrified for the game to release because I knew that there was going to be a response. And I was just curious to see what people would say. I think overall, people have been, at least to my face, very complimentary. So I do appreciate that. And I like to think that people love my take on her. I hope so. I definitely enjoyed doing it.
I mean, it is weird getting used to it because, again,
Yeah.
no, there hasn't been like an official English dub for Fatal Fury or King of Fighters before, City of the Wolves. So it's kind of
Right.
like getting used to hearing the game in English just feels weird.
Yeah.
And same thing with Street Fighter. Like, I mean, with Street Fighter, like, yeah, you're pretty much used to hearing these iconic characters come back for the next installment, but at the same time, it's kind of like, I don't know how I feel about how I feel about some of
Exactly.
these choices.
I can totally respect that. It's kind of like if there's a popular book that hasn't yet been turned into a movie form, right? So when every person who's reading the book, they kind of hear a different person's voice in their head as they're reading characters, or they envision a different person. So I could definitely tell sometimes when characters come to screen for the first time, not everybody's going to be in love with it, or be like, oh, that's not who I envisioned. That's not what I imagined. And either you grow to love that adaptation or you stick with the OG. So I respect either people's choices.
Yeah, definitely. And honestly, like, from what I heard, it's like for a character that has not had like an official English voice, you did a great job, I think, with the material you were given, and I think
Mm.
as an actor, you probably get this a lot, where you have to be told, like, okay, elevate the material, elevate the
Right.
material.
Yes, definitely. I mean, the director, like I said, both directors were so excellent. I mean, both teams, everybody who was working on the teams who were in the booth with me, there was a really great synergy of giving me direction, sometimes specifics, and then other times just being like, bring what you have to the table. do how you feel this character would do. So I think that trust helped to develop the sound even better.
And speaking of building that level of trust, like, did you get a chance to ad lib something and they kept it in?
I actually I wonder if maybe I might have said a different word here or there that they've probably been like, oh, you know what? Actually, that sounded more natural. That came out more naturally. For the most part, though, we did stick to the script.
And when you say like stick to the script, like basically like they played the Japanese reference, and you're like, okay, this is where she's at in this scene. Go,
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, you definitely have a really good grasp on that because that's a lot of the time how it went. Like you would hear what's happening, the director would give you a little bit of context so you knew what it was in response to. So it would sound more natural when all the pieces were put together. But yeah, a lot of times I would hear the Japanese reference. But as you know, English and Japanese have very different nuances, different flows of the sound. So sometimes maybe she would pause here or put a little emphasis here. But in English, that would sound awkward. So you would need to figure out, okay, how can I create this energy or the intent behind what's being said, but in a very natural manner. So it's a fun puzzle to play.
And have you gotten a chance to play to play Street Fighter or Fatal Fury? Or are you not very good at video games?
Well, no, I'm not good at video games. I enjoy, and I've always been a great watcher. I think I'm an excellent video game watcher and excellent support. However, I will say that I do have my Xbox over here, and the games are waiting for me. Everything's loaded up. Um, yeah, so I'm very excited to finally dive in. But you know what? I've seen so many clips, I've seen so much of the game, and I'm very familiar with all the characters. But as for myself actually playing, I think I keep building it up in my head. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play this and I'm gonna be really good. I gotta be really good. And so this is why I keep having this delay. But it's definitely waiting for me. It's right over there.
Oh man, you're in for a real wild ride if you're gonna be playing like two different games and they're and just like going switching back and forth and being like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
this doesn't sound right.
No, we'll give it a go. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I mean, everything that I've seen, everything that I've heard, and everything that people are saying, it seems like this is definitely something my expectations I feel are going to be exceeded.
I mean, but have you watched any footage of the game? I'm kind of curious,
Oh yeah.
or can you not stand listening to yourself?
Hearing my own voice. I'll tell you something. Before the game was released, I actually went through because I psyched myself out. One night I was just thinking, oh my gosh, she's huge. There are so many people expecting this voice. Did I do it justice? And I remember going back and listening to my files over and over and over again. I couldn't sleep. I was listening to the files and I was like, oh man, maybe I could have done this. Maybe I could have said that. Oh, this was good. Is this correct? Right? Because you can definitely psych yourself out. You have to trust casting. You have to trust the director. But there was one instance where I was listening through everything again, and it was very surreal, I think, hearing my voice. Well, I guess it is my voice coming out of Mai Shiranui for the first time. When I saw that, I was like, oh, wow, it was quite a moment. And now what I like is that I can see the character, not myself, when I'm watching her. And that's something that has been really fun to see.
So there was never that moment where you listen to it and you're like, oh, I hate that take. Why did they go with that take?
I don't think so. Honestly, like the teams were so good and the directors knew exactly what they wanted. And I'm hoping, across the board, everybody was like, great, these are fantastic. And if they were bad, hopefully they had me do it again. But otherwise, you know, I respect their choices.
Because every time I ask this question of people, they always tell me like they never watch or play any of the stuff they're in because
Really?
they can't stand listening to themselves.
Yeah, I mean that's very natural. It's totally natural. So I'm also a singer, right? And I had to learn the hard way to improve yourself, you need to monitor. You have to self-monitor. There's no way around it. And so at least when it came to singing, I would sing, I would record, and I would listen to it again. I'd be like, oh man, my breathing technique was off. The phrasing was wrong. The dynamics weren't correct. Because in the moment, you're so focused. Sometimes you miss important things. But when you monitor, then you improve, or you catch yourself doing things like, oh, the way I did that was weird. Oh, the way I pronounced that is strange. And I think the same thing can go with voice recording. And so, of course, you don't always have the opportunity to monitor everything you've done before it goes out into the world. But for the most part, I do try to hear my own things again and just be like, okay, if I have the chance to fix this, I will. But the more you monitor it, the better you get at it. At least that's my opinion.
So, coming from a musical background, you already know like every character has a melody, and that's like
Oh,
that's a
yeah.
huge thing where that's a
Yeah.
like I think it was like Jess Harnell who said this, like every character has a melody, and that's how he breaks it down whenever he gets like an audition or whatever. And he's like, okay, let me
Hmm.
just find what this character sounds like musically, and that's how he breaks it down. So and
Yeah.
that's why I think like musicians make great voice actors because they already know how to manipulate their voices and what have you.
That's true. That's a really beautiful way of saying it. I absolutely agree. And the same thing, whether you're a voice actor or not, every single person has a cadence to the way they speak. Some people it's, very obvious. Like you have Christopher Walken. Christopher Walken's cadence and his sound is very apparent. Or Adam Sandler, it's very apparent, right? And every single character does have their own, I guess you could call it a melody, right? And that's the trick of the voice actor to be able to pull that out, to figure out what that is.
And when you're in the booth and when you're like recording, especially for a fighting game, how do you avoid vocal damage? Because you had to like again record the same character twice for two different fighting games,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't imagine that would be a fun experience on the throat.
That's true. I do think you have to be cautious. You got to care for your voice because it is your instrument. Luckily, we do break up the recording sessions into, a couple hours at each time. So you have some moments to take a rest. I drink so much water, so much ginger, honey tea. I'm constantly drinking warm water, sucking on cough drops. That will do. I have this like Chinese herbal medicine syrup that's very popular, and I'll mix that in with hot water and I'll just drink that down. But it's just like a constant care, just to always be moisturized. So it's not just in the booth when you're doing all this care, but it's when you're out of the booth as well. That's really important.
And have you gotten a chance to meet any of your fellow castmates?
No, not yet. I'm really anticipating this. So we're actually some of us are going to be there at AzokuCon in Michigan in August. And so I'm really anticipating that. A few of us are connected via social media. And so in a way, it's kind of like, hey, we exist. We exist in the same universe in another way, right? We know each other. So I feel like there's a little bit of that familiarity aspect, but we haven't met in person yet.
Because you guys don't record together, and some of you even did live in different states, and
Correct.
it becomes that whole thing where it's like, oh, I hope people remember that we worked on this thing together.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, that is true. That is, I guess, a big difference when you're doing voiceover work versus, say, working on set somewhere or a theater, right? You don't have that time to build the rapport in person. Um, and so, I mean, who knows? If you all recorded together in the studio, I'm sure it'd be very chaotic, but maybe you would have a different sound that comes out of it.
I mean, I do. I'm a huge proprietor of ensemble records, and I do think that more productions should at least utilize ensemble recording in some fashion because I think the performances are better because you're not acting alone, and you already know what the other actor is going to be doing because they're there.
Right.
It's not like a case where it's like okay, here's the Japanese reference, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but at the same time it's
Hmm.
like it's a totally different language, and it doesn't translate well to into English. I'm sorry. That's going to be a hotly
Hmm.
debated topic, but I don't think like Japanese like really translates well into English because it's a whole, different language, and
Hmm. Hmm.
the sound and cadence and all this other stuff is totally different from the English language because it's like, you can hear it. If you if you've watched an anime, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
of course. Yeah, totally. I mean, every language has its own kind of what we're talking about, cadences and melodies and nuances, and direct translations don't always work. And so sometimes you have to, it may contain a different meaning, even if the intent behind it is the same. And inevitably it will sound different.
And being a New York-based actor, do you feel like that limits the type of stuff that you can audition for, or are you not like Are you not bothered by the type of the amount of work you're getting?
Yeah, great question. So my agency is bi-coastal and they're pretty big. I would say they're quite big in the voiceover space. And so they have been amazing at getting me loads of auditions. I cannot complain on that front. I have heard that people who are in LA will get different types of work just on what's happening over there. But now in our remote home studios and the fact that we can record remotely for a majority of projects, I don't feel that there are significant limitations. I also think my agents have kind of pegged me for doing voices and character work. So I do get a lot of those great auditions.
And have you ever thought about moving to LA?
Oh, have I ever thought about it? So I've been to LA a couple times, right? Like I was there when I recorded for Street Fighter. Um, I don't know. There's something about New York. I do love the aspect of being amongst people. I also think there's lots of colorful characters here. And so sometimes just people watching can be really inspiring. It's just a different energy, to be honest. I don't think I would ever move to LA, but I wouldn't mind staying. Let's say I had a big project that I was working on. I would not mind staying there for a significant amount of time.
Oh, so you don't mind doing the whole bi-coastal thing because I know like a lot of actors are doing that right now where they're just like have like a home in LA but
Uh-huh.
they don't mind like going to New York if they're working on a play
Right.
there or something like that because that's the new thing now where it's like everyone's doing the bi-coastal thing where it's like okay I can just like rent out my home to somebody or
Yeah,
and just move to New York for however long they need me for the play and then we'll see where it goes
exactly.
and it's like good on you. Good on you for doing that. I can't imagine me personally doing that because, I mean, like living one place, living in one place is expensive enough. I can't imagine like, living in two different places in two different time zones. It's just like, ugh.
Yeah, there's definitely some wear and tear involved with that. I mean, it is quite a distance to travel from either side. Yeah, the ideal thing would be just you had loads of houses anywhere, and if you just had a project here, pop over there and hang out in your house, pop over there and hang out in your house. Not there yet. Maybe never will be, but it's a nice dream to have.
Yeah, but I mean, it is interesting, like because I think pre-COVID, I think this wasn't a thing. Pre-COVID, I think everybody was like, well, if you're LA local, then that's you're just gonna get the LA jobs, or if you're new NYC local,
Mm-mm.
you're just gonna get the NYC local type jobs. But then I think when post-COVID, I think people realized, oh, we can just like do home recordings and what have you, and all that other stuff. So I think it is kind of interesting to see the industry adapt in that sense, but I don't know. It's that's a whole other topic and we do not have the
Yeah.
time for that. That is a whole other topic. But, but
I
it
will
is
just say
interesting.
we are in a bit of transition period, definitely. And I think you're right. After COVID is kind of where things shifted. And so in a way, we're all just trying to figure out our bearings in this shifting industry. Um, yeah, I think it's just changing, and we're all kind of going with that and seeing what's going to happen next.
And how do you balance your work and personal life?
You know what? I don't think I have one. I think so when people ask me, "Oh, what are your hobbies?" I honestly should pick up some new hobbies. I do voiceover work also on my own socials and YouTube for fun. I like to write. Um, I guess anything that's not directly work related. I bake occasionally. I should probably bake some more, but a little bit of that. Yeah, there's not a whole lot. Honestly, all of it feels kind of like life. I don't see a separation between this is work, this is life. I'm kind of just doing it all
Oh, you're
for good
def
or for bad. I don't
oh,
know if that's
oh,
healthy, but
you're definitely an actor because like every time I ask people that question, they're like, "No, you don't." That's the answer. It's like you
that's
don't.
the answer. Yeah, correct. I'm on 24/7. I actually like that. I think sometimes you can get into your head a little bit, right? If it's too quiet for too long, then you're like, what am I missing? What can I do? Is there something I can improve? And for good or for bad, honestly, we drive ourselves crazy. But Yeah. So it's just life. No balance, just life.
Oh, especially when you're like doing t tons of auditions and you're just like sending them out to the ether and you're like, I hope someone listened to that because I ain't doing it again.
That's right. Yeah, you really have to just set it and forget it. That's what my manager always says. She says, just do your best, throw it out there, and then don't even think about it. And, in the case of bringing back to Mai Shiranui, that audition, I remember sending it out and I didn't think twice afterwards. And it was months later when it came back to me. So I wasn't harping on it, I wasn't thinking about it. It just kind of went out and then it came back. And I think that's what's going to happen when the role is right.
And was she the only character you auditioned for, or did you audition for any other characters?
I did audition for some other characters. Yeah, I think I auditioned for three in total. Yeah. I cannot even remember clearly because we, I wasn't even fully aware of what this was for when I received the audition. You just get a small sliver of the script, very small description of the character, and then you kind of go off of that. Yeah, so I can't even remember, but I remember it was three.
Yeah, because they're very secretive and sometimes they just give you like one or two words and they're like guard one, guard two, or like ninja,
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, you figure it out.
Yeah. Right. That's why, like, this is why I think casting is, I don't know, like people who are really good at casting, they have some magic skill because somehow they heard the correct thing in my voice, even with just a small bit of script. And so I was very impressed by them.
And you mentioned that you went to LA to record for Street Fighter. Like, what was
Mhm.
that experience like? Because that obviously that means that you went there to record in studio. Like, what was that experience like going to record in
Yeah.
studio?
It was really interesting. It was great. Went in bigger studio than my home studio. So that was really nice. And you had like the big screen in front of you so you can watch some of the scenes that are happening or some of the movements so that you can really embody it. Um, yeah, so that was really fun. Like there is one in particular that I remember. It's when she's just breathing after a fight. I think she has lost, and you have to match the breathing with her body movements at the moment because it's too awkward to kind of cut in breaths like that. So I remember just watching it multiple times to figure out when is she actually breathing, when does she stop, when does she breathe again, so that I could match it. So that was really fun.
And you also mentioned that you're doing an anime con, not an anime con, like a convention next month. Were conventions something you wanted to pursue after you booked this role, or was it something that, someone just like said, "Hey, this game's popular and people want to to
Mm.
to have you sign stuff. Are you okay with this?" And was it something like you slowly dip your toe into, or was it something like because the convention scene is a whole other like that's a whole
Hmm.
other part of the business. I'm kind of wondering like was that something you also wanted to do, or or was it just something you also stumbled across?
Yeah, I've always been aware of conventions, and I thought in my head, this is such a beloved character and this is a beloved franchise. I wonder, right? But I didn't seek it out. And then my agent was the one who contacted me and was like, "Hey, you've been invited to a con in August. Would you like to go?" And I was like, "Yeah." I mean, every opportunity to meet my fellow voice actors, to meet fans in person, and just enjoy that community because a lot of the work that we do is kind of like what we're doing right now. There's this degree of separation, um, but nothing can replace being in person and interacting with people in real life, in real time. And so to have that opportunity come, I just jumped at it. I was like, yes, this is it, 100%. I would love to be part of that. And so I'll be going in August and we'll see what comes after that.
Oh, gotta start like making prints now to get signed.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, that's something I do need to prepare.
Oh, and get ready for like, having to sit for hours and, just sitting at a
Yeah,
table and just like hoping that someone shows up.
right. Well, it is a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes like I feel like, whenever I go to a con, I kind of feel bad for the people who like, go there and they set up a table and then no one's showing up and you just feel bad because you're just like, well,
Yeah. Of course, yeah. I mean, popularity is a funny thing, right? If your character is popular at that time, I'm sure there are waves that come and go. Nobody likes to be forgotten, but you know what? That's part of the game, right? You also have to play a little bit of the game. And this is where I think the power of social media comes in because this is a way where you can interact with people via social media, and then that can translate also to real life. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this one.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you have a good experience because it's a whole different beast because like I know that some actors like don't do a lot of conventions because when you're doing a con you have to be like on what do you call it, like God, I can't
Like
remember.
constantly ready to
Yeah,
interact
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, and that
Yeah.
takes a lot out of you because I have heard stories of actors like showing up to cons and constantly talking to people and being high
Yeah.
energy for the panels and what have you, and then going back to their hotel rooms and then just passing out because they're just like completely tired. And it's like, yeah. And sometimes
Yes.
sometimes I remember talking to people and they're like, I don't do a lot of cons because it takes a lot out of me. So
Yeah.
like, when you see me at a con, understand that that's a rare instance. And I'm like, yeah, that's something you also need to take into consideration where it's like, you know, the people who are able to do back-to-back cons and work the con circuit for a good tour back-to-back appearances are just like
Hmm.
the stamina that those people must have is just incredible because it's like I can't imagine doing that. Like I can't imagine doing that. I mean, I get tired like recording like this show after like one or two episodes. I can't imagine like
Yeah.
talking to people
That's
for
true.
for
It's really true. I
yeah.
mean, it also comes down to if like do you like do you like talking to people, right? Or do you lose energy when you're in crowds? Do you gain energy when you're in crowds? I like to think that I enjoy speaking with people. I definitely gain energy when I'm with a crowd of people, especially if they like you, right? Then you can get more energy with that. But I agree. Show business in all of its aspects, you are pouring out to people for sure. So no doubt. I would be tired.
Oh man, speaking of talking to people, like, look, I am that guy who will just show up and talk to you for like 30 or something minutes. If I see that there's like like there's no line and that someone I want to talk to at a con, I'll do that. I'll talk to people for like, 30 or 40 minutes straight about stuff.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm sure people really appreciate it. That's why you go. You go to the cons so that you can meet people and you can learn about people. Oh, why do you love this character? Why do you love this game? That is something, at least for me, I think voice actors really appreciate and love.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah, and I don't like the cons where they're like, oh, where okay, I understand like, if it's someone who's in high demand and you have like a really long line, and you need to like move it fast,
Hmm.
you get your shit in there and go. But at the same time, it's like it really frustrates me because it's like, you want to have at least like a 2 or 3 minute conversation with someone, but you can't because it's like,
Hmm.
well, you got to keep the line moving, got to keep the line moving. And I'm just like, ugh.
Right, right. There has to be a sweet spot, right? Okay, you keep the flow going so there's not a holdup, but at the same time, the point is to make that personal contact and that personal touch. So we'll see how this one goes. Hopefully, I'll have the opportunity to speak to people.
Yeah, and it's gonna be interesting seeing you like interact with your castmates for the first time. That's also gonna
I
be a lot of
know
fun.
it's gonna be great.
So, yeah, and and speaking of like interacting with fans, like what was your initial reaction when the character first got announced and you announced it on social media? Like, what was your response? What was your reaction to the what was your reaction to the fan reaction? That's a weird sentence, but
Yeah.
there you go.
I mean, I honestly didn't expect, I wasn't expecting something, right? It wasn't like, oh, I expect 1,000 people to love me now. It was there, I had none of that in my mind. I really more felt, I think, fear, trepidation. It was like, okay. I hope people react to this well. That was more of the feeling that I had. And so just to see people responding so positively to the character and her voice and the way that the games were developed, I was really, I don't know, like I don't even know if the word is proud, right? Because it's not even like, oh, good for me, proud for me. It wasn't even like that. It was just, oh my gosh, I'm so happy this exists in the world now and that there's so many people out there who love this. I thought that was just, it was very cool to witness that and very cool to be part of it. Yeah.
And what are some of your favorite outfits?
Oh, for Mai?
Yeah, for my yeah.
Yeah. Of course, her traditional red outfit is unbeatable. I do think I like the biker look. So I actually did a photo shoot. This is a little bit of a sneak peek for you. I did a photo shoot with a cosplay photographer, and he gifted me with my leather jacket. So I do that is currently in my possession. And we're waiting to see how the photos turn out. So I've been enjoying wearing that around here and there. Yeah, I really love of course, those two looks. And then there's like this really old school one where she has the full-on kimono, right? There's like a kind of pixelated graphics. It's really old school and just briefly she wears it. I like that look as well. I think it would be really cool if that was brought back.
Well, I mean, they're constantly making new costumes for Street Fighter, so who
Yeah.
knows?
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean that's an ongoing game, and so it's kind of interesting. Like again, being part of two different franchises and having two different fan bases. It's kind of must be weird.
I think, yeah, I mean, it's not really weird per se. It is in a way, it feels almost unnatural, right? Because it's always been previously people loved me personally for my work or as a person. This is a little bit different because people love the character. And then by proxy, they discovered me and hopefully have a little love for me too. So you're right. It is a little bit different. It's kind of like a roundabout way of making fans. Um, but it's been really amazing. I can't deny that. The fans of Mai Shiranui in the games are fantastic.
Well, I mean, as long as you're not getting any weirdos, then it's all good.
Oh, we're good. We are so good. And you're not the first person to look out for me either. I've definitely had a couple of people that I've done interviews with, and they all say the same thing, like just look out for the weirdos. Like, okay, thanks, guys.
Yeah, because I don't know if you know this, but she's a very attractive character, and
Hmm.
you know.
There are definitely people who are super fans, by far super fans. And I accept the appreciation as it comes, but I've never had to draw the line yet. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and I'll just say that uh, voice actors are not their characters. Please do not refer to them as their character names. Please do not treat them as the characters. They're just people, okay? They're just people.
Yeah, that's a good call out.
Yeah, so I mean, because I know a lot of people just like get a lot of hate for voicing a character, and it's just like, but they just
Mm,
did their job, you know. It's not their
right.
it's not their fault that the character is unlikable. They just showed up to record lines for a thing.
Right, right. I mean, that's the power of art and the power of storytelling. Because people, even if the story itself is not quote unquote real, happening in this real 3D world right now, it is still generating real feelings. It is still real in the sense of what I'm experiencing. So I could totally understand that, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's just like I mean, I say this a lot, but I think that I feel sorry for. Well, I mean, I don't want to say like feel sorry for her because of that this makes me sound like a like I'm
Yeah, it's
I
not pity.
no, I mean
Yeah.
it's not pity, but I do it does annoy me that you hear stories of like female voice actresses getting harassed by weirdos because they voice like a
Hmm.
sexy character, and I'm just like, what? That's just eh.
Yeah. There's the reality, guys. We can all touch grass. Yeah, that is true. That's a good point to make.
And I said this like a lot, I do like in again it does bother me whenever like I see like a female voice actress announce that they're the voice of like a sexy character, and I immediately know it's like, oh, they're gonna get so many weird requests, and it does happen, and it is like
Yeah.
it is sad, but that's just like that's just the reality. I mean, because people just refuse to separate the character from the actor, and it's just like, well, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, sometimes I will say it's kind of twofold, right? On one hand, it's like, all right, as the actor, this comes with the territory, like it or not. You have to be careful yourself and have your own boundaries. And then two, on the fan side and the audience side, it's also like there's a level of decency and a level of reality that you also have to recognize. And sometimes that line is not easy for people to keep. But yeah, everything you're saying is totally true.
And that's why like I don't like whenever I whenever I have people on here, and I'm not like I never ask them, "Oh, can you do the voice? Can you say this? Can you say that?" Because I'm like, "No, that's totally unprofessional." And I say this a lot to people. It's like, if you want to like do a bit and like go into character voices or like give an example, then that's on you. But it's like
Hmm.
I'm not gonna sit here and tell you like, oh, can you do the voice? Can you do it? Can you still do it? Can you say this? Can you say that?
Sure.
Because it's just like I want to be like professional, in a sense,
Mm.
because it's like, because people are people, and they're not monkeys. They're not like, there to for your amusement. It's just like, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Part of it, I mean, this is art. This is so fun and it's full of creativity, but it's also a job, right? So it's good that you can respect that. Yeah.
Last one of the last questions I wanted to ask you is, what was the best
Hmm.
and worst piece of advice you've ever been given as an actor?
Oh, that's a great question. Worst and best piece of advice. Worst and best piece of advice. Oh gosh. Okay, I would say the best piece of advice that I received, and I think this is probably the hardest part of acting, is you're not playing a character. I think this might have to do more with real acting in person versus voice acting, like theatrical acting. Is so let's see how I can phrase this. My acting teacher had said, "You're not playing a character. You are yourself if you became that character, right? So that's why you could have one character and multiple actors play that one character and play all those lines in very different ways because everybody has their own mannerisms. Their body moves in different directions. Their voice cadence is a little bit different, right? So let's say somebody else booked Mai Shiranui, they might sound totally different with the character, even though they are being that character, right? So he had said like I do think that somebody who can do that, be totally authentic and vulnerable as themselves if they ever became that character. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but that's what separates great actors from people who are just play acting, right? You're not just, oh, I just wear this character and do what I think they're going to do. It's more like this is what I would do if I was that person. And yeah, there's like a very fine line between that, but I think that separates good actors from great actors. That was probably the best advice that I got, and I'm still working through that. I think that's a continuous learning process. As for the worst piece of advice, what was the worst piece of advice that I received? In terms of acting. Hmm. It probably was something that I learned back in school, middle or high school, if I was doing a play. I've had my share of very kooky drama teachers who have probably given me, one note here or there that wasn't great. But honestly, I feel like acting has come pretty naturally to me. So maybe I just threw out the bad advice and was like, this is bad. I'm not going to keep it. I can't even remember, honestly, off the top of my head.
I also want to make it clear, like, whenever I ask people that question, what's the best and worst piece of advice? Like, the worst piece of advice might not be even bad advice. It might just be like, someone said, "Hey, you should audition for this thing," and it wasn't right,
Oh, I see what
So
you're
so
saying.
so it's not always like, it's not always like, oh,
Yeah,
what was the worst piece of advice? Because it's like, you know, because it's all subjective. It's basically what I'm trying to say is like it's all subjective. Like
totally.
like what is best and what is worst. I mean, it's just like it's all subjective, but it isn't. But I do love hearing how people, what do you call it? Like how people, I love hearing people talk about the craft. So that's why I asked that
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I do think I'm kind of constantly moving in a forward motion. I think this is a very natural part of me. So even when I go through tough times or I hear bad advice or somebody says, "Hey, this is the way to do it," da, 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 I feel like I let it roll off me. If I'm like, you know what, I don't like that or I disagree or I don't think that's gonna work right now, it just kind of rolls off me and I just keep moving forward. Um, yeah, so I've definitely put myself in crazy situations. I've definitely had horrible auditions before, but I can't remember one really, really sticking to me. Maybe here's one piece of advice. This could be bad, this could be good. But I remember I was auditioning for this like a musical thing. And they said just bring a song of your choice and then you'll come and perform it. So I did. I came and I performed my song. And I remember thinking like, "Hey, this was really good. Like I did a really great job. Totally a cappella, short time to prepare, and I think I did great." And I remember right away the casting was like, sorry, no." I was like, "Why? Why? What was it, if I may ask?" And she just said, "It's nothing against you personally. You're a great singer. However, you have to be at the meeting the right person with the right song at the right time." And so I was like, okay. Basically, I thought, oh, she just didn't like it. But the more and more I think about it, I think that's really true. Let's say that I did an audition for Mai Shiranui. Let's say it was a different character, Chun-Li, and it just wasn't right for me. Then I would have totally missed the opportunity, right? So sometimes it is just being at the right time with the right role, with the right person hearing you. And that can be bad if you feel like this role is perfect for you, but they don't think so. Or it could be good because it's part of the luck of the draw, right? So, yeah, that's a piece of advice, good or bad, that has always stuck with me.
Yeah, because a lot of times it's just, you never know like where life is gonna like I cannot think of a good metaphor. I am sorry. I am an idiot. Like
No,
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 no, no.
totally.
Like I'm trying to like because you never know where the journey's gonna take you.
You never know.
Because I mean, a real quick story. I've told this before, but like Corey Burton. I'm in good friends with him. I almost text with him almost every day. He's Cad Bane in Star Wars. But
Mm,
the funny thing about Cad is that, he wasn't originally cast as Cad. It was originally Lance Hendrickson. Hendrickson did a
mm,
test, did like a screen test, and Lucas didn't like it. He's like, "Oh, it's not weird enough. Get Corey
mm.
Burton to do it." And then it's like, okay, so
Yeah.
and he was just like at the only reason he got that role is because like, hey, the celebrity isn't working out. We didn't,
Mm.
we wanted to go in a different direction. He's like, okay, cool.
Yeah, that's the thing. You just have to be willing to let it go. I envision my life like this. I hold it loosely. So I'm holding on to things, but I hold it loosely enough that if it falls out of my hands or someone takes it out, I'm not like grasping it like this. And I think that goes the same with roles, with jobs, relationships, opportunities. Grasp them, reach out for them, and hold them steadily. But if they get plucked out of your hands, all right, that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. And before we wrap this up, can you give us an update on what you're currently working on and where can people find you online?
Yeah. Well, I am auditioning very regularly. So that has been fantastic. If there's nothing I can say at the moment publicly, but whenever things do get announced, of course, I always share it on my socials. On X, it's hey_Rebecca Rose. And then on Instagram and TikTok, it's Rebecca Rose.official. And I also have my YouTube channel, Rebecca Rose White. So you can find me all of those places.
All right. Thank you so much for taking the time off to do this. This has been a lovely conversation. And if you ever want to come back, you know where to find me.
Thanks. Thank you so much. It's been fun.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.